When Fallout 76 was announced, a ton of skepticism was thrown Bethesda Game Studios' way, with many not sure how to feel about Fallout 76 being an online-only live service experience. A lot of people, including myself, were anticipating something like Fallout New Vegas after Fallout 4, maybe with the possibility of a co-op mode, but Bethesda clearly didn't want to do that. They wanted to make a full live service experience for Fallout like they have for the Elder Scrolls. They wanted a game that can bring in revenue consistently for years to come until they eventually revisit the Fallout franchise, one day with Fallout 5. Now, I'm not going to deep dive into all the controversy that ensued late last year and at the beginning of this year because it's just too much, but it is important to understand Fallout 76 at launch was a buggy disaster. Bethesda made a ton of mistakes inside and outside of the game, whether that be the canvas bag mess that grabbed headlines last year, or players accessing a secret developer room that featured every item in the game, and even some unreleased content like a lunchbox, which was basically a loot box that granted players minor gameplay boosts. When Fallout 76 was launched officially in November 2018, because of how the game released, there was no reviews day one, but for the weeks following, slowly more and more negative reviews trickled in. Right now, an open critic based off of 131 critic reviews, the game has a score of 53 out of 100, with only 6% of critics recommending the game. On Metacritic, the PC version of Fallout 76 has a score of 52 out of 100, based on 46 reviews, and the PS4 version has a 53 out of 100, while the Xbox One version has a 49 out of 100. The overall consensus on Fallout 76 from both critic and user was that Fallout 76 is not a good game and really needed more development time. In recent months, we've heard Bethesda briefly talk about the disastrous launch of Fallout 76 at PAX East 2019, which happened back in March. Todd Howard and a few other Fallout 76 lead developers discussed the problems they faced.
It was interesting.
I mean,
We've had some time. We've had a thing.
that's a good way to start out.
ahead,
Interesting, right? I got to first say hats off to the back-end team. We had 0 unplanned downtime, which in my 20 years of online game experience is pretty unheard of. So they've done a great job. Now, as far as the game goes, we've had some ups and downs. I think interesting is a great way to describe it.
For our studio, we knew that we were going to have a lot of bumps coming out with the game, and we definitely had some. Some of them were much harder than we anticipated. And this was a very new and different project for us. But this one, to be honest, we had a lot of difficulties during development. And sometimes those difficulties do show up on the screen. You never want them to. We're really excited that the game actually did very, very well. We have a huge, millions of players, great player base in this game, giving us tons of feedback. And more so, we feel that our goal is to build kind of a Fallout platform.
Although I will admit, one of my issues with these comments was the fact that Todd and company didn't really get specific with the issues that they faced and explain why they chose to launch a game that felt rushed and unfinished. I also find it odd that Bethesda is making it seem like this has been a massive success, because based on the sales numbers that have been made public, including some leaks, it doesn't look like Fallout 76 has done very well at all. Anyway, finally today, Todd Howard sat down with IGN's Ryan McCaffrey and had a discussion about Fallout 76's chaotic launch, the negative reviews, the reputation damage to Bethesda and Fallout, and a lot more. We're going to break all that down in a second, but if you haven't already, consider subscribing for all the latest gaming news and turn notifications on so you don't miss out on any content. Nonetheless, let's start with this.
Fallout 76 is a big fall game, not under your personal, this team here at Rockville's.
There was a lot of people here involved in it, yeah.
It was Austin. The Austin team were they the kind of...
The Austin studio, the whole studio in Austin's working on it. I think they've done a really incredible job, but there's a lot of people here in Rockville and in Dallas and in Montreal.
Everybody.
That was a lot of people.
So immediately, I think the point Ryan was trying to make was that Bethesda Maryland was not lead developers on this, and this was really Bethesda Austin's game. Although, as Todd says, there still was a lot of people from Maryland involved in the development of the game. But even then, I have to imagine that following Fallout 4, the primary focus for Todd Howard and the Maryland office is and has been Starfield. But if there is one positive thing I can say is that Todd Howard is not trying to distance himself from Fallout 76. He's saying this was a team effort with all of the Bethesda studios contributing to the development of Fallout 76. But again, how involved Todd Howard and the Maryland office was, I'm not convinced this has been the focus for the last few years.
That project, certainly at launch, was simply just not super well received, critically certainly. Do you have an idea of how it's going to land, or were you caught off guard by the launch of that
We
game?
knew we were going to have a lot of bumps. That's a difficult development. A lot of new systems and things like that. Hey, we're going to go try this new thing. And anytime you're going to do something new like that, you know you're going to have your bumps. You know that a lot of people might say, that's not the game we want from you.
Todd Howard has been very consistent with how he's described Fallout 76's problems, but the thing is, none of these are valid excuses for delivering a bad product on November 14th, 2018. Of course, the game was buggy and had all kinds of technical issues, but even beyond that, the story that is there isn't very good, quest design was lacking, the graphics were okay but nowhere near 16 times the detail that was hyped up at E3 2018, and honestly, the problem with Fallout 76 was that Bethesda didn't know what they wanted this game to be. It was a mixture of conflicting ideas that just equaled up to a massive mess that, in my opinion, should not have been released in the state that it was. Additionally, many games have difficult developments, experiencing many bumps using new technology. Red Dead Redemption 2 did and came out to universal acclaim. Just because a game's development is difficult doesn't excuse releasing a game that was closer to early access rather than a finished $60 AAA product.
But we still want to be somebody who's trying new things. And that was a very difficult development on that game to get it where it was. And we were ready for, a lot of those difficulties ended up on the screen, and we knew, hey, look, this is not the type of game that people are used to from us, and we're going to get some criticism on it. And a lot of that very well-deserved criticism.
The strange thing about Bethesda game studios is years ago they led by example with their open world experiences, but nowadays it feels like they are just settling and following the money while also falling behind. If Bethesda hears the criticism, The Elder Scrolls Blade wouldn't be a paywalled microtransaction driven experience, and Fallout 76 wouldn't have broken its cosmetic-only promise to gamers, but they did. Actions speak louder than words, and if Bethesda truly has learned, we should see that. Starfield is going to be a very interesting game, because if Bethesda is listening to criticism, they should know they cannot release a game as buggy and broken again as they did with Fallout 76 and previous titles like Skyrim and Fallout 4. Continuing along, Todd Howard next discusses how Bethesda has had a reputation of delivering good quality experiences, which were all pretty much critically acclaimed, but he explains they knew Fallout 76 would not be that.
But we knew that going into this. We knew it's not that, right?
Yeah.
You would say, look, this isn't a game, even from the beginning, this is not going to be like, high Metacritic game. That's not what this is, given what it is. But we felt strongly this is a game we want to play. This is something we really want to do. And all of the games like this, whether it's us or somebody else, you can go back and look at them. There's a period once you launch. It's not how you launch, it's what it becomes. And, can't be prouder of the team that's worked on it. They've worked tirelessly. And it's really turned around. It's a fabulous game and an incredible community around it.
This goes back to something I brought up a bit ago. Bethesda settled with Fallout 76, and using other live service experiences as an excuse is something I do not like. There is no excuse for delivering a bad, buggy, broken, unfinished product day one, especially one that costs $60, and if Todd Howard and Bethesda felt this way, I would have definitely appreciated hearing this before launch. I've said this for months with other live service experiences like Anthem. I don't see it as an excuse to ship a game and promise consumers you'll fix it one day, especially one that costs money and isn't in early access or something like that. Next, Todd Howard would be asked about how Fallout 76 can shake its chaotic launch and the reputation that it has earned thus far.
I think, there's no strategy other than just keep making the game better. And people who play it and they'll come back. And by the way, it's been very popular, right? So It was a huge release for us. The community around it's really, really strong. Obviously, it got a lot of criticism and stories, and we see all that. And it's not, you don't want to read that, but it is what it is. And again, we deserved a lot of that. So it's just working the issues. Like, hey, what do the consumers want? What do we want? How do we get there? This is a very long tail for us in this game.
So, Todd Howard can say that this is the most popular thing on this planet, but I have to believe, had they developed this game more and released it this spring, it probably would have been met to larger sales and a stronger player base. Of course, there is a community, and Todd elaborates saying delivering enjoyable new content will bring people back, but I really don't know if Fallout 76 will be able to shake its rocky launch. There are many who felt burned by this game, and if they bring human non-playable characters, modding, and story content, maybe that could interest more people, but I just have trouble seeing players return or jump in for the first time without major game-changing content.
Over the course of your career, have you been a guy that's read reviews?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I read them all.
So you got to read the good and the bad ones, right?
Absolutely. I read all the comments. You look, I've experienced it all, right? We've had the games that hit the high 90s and win all the games of the years, and we have the ones that don't as well, and that kind of comes with the territory.
Well, if Todd Howard has read all the reviews and seen all the negative comments, there's a lot, hopefully he understands there was a lot of issues with Fallout 76 that makes many of us skeptical about the future of this developer. Bethesda Game Studios has been stuck for a while now, and with many more developers, whether that be Guerrilla Games or CD Projekt Red pushing the open world genre forward with amazing and unique experiences, I just wonder if Bethesda can keep up, especially if they just keep upgrading the creation engine, which has been criticized for years, feeling really outdated. Time will tell. Now, Todd Howard would acknowledge mean comments being thrown at Bethesda because of the poor quality of Fallout 76, saying that he understands that players care about these franchises and that Bethesda, they are listening and trying to be better. This would lead to IGN's Ryan McCaffrey asking what have they learned from the game following all of these quote-unquote bumps.
Well, the main takeaway we had was you gotta let it bake with a large live audience for longer than we did. There's just certain things you can never see until it's running 24/7 for a number of months. So, if there's one thing that we could have, I think I would have done differently, is find a way to let at scale people be playing the game 24/7 before you say, everybody in, here you go, pay us.
I mean, technical issues and bugs were a major issue, but let's not act like there weren't a boatload of other issues with the overall game design. As I mentioned earlier, one of my primary issues with Fallout 76 is that it doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't really have an identity. That's why PvP was so broken at launch, and the story that is there just falls so flat. But with this response from Todd, I did think that he was wanting a longer early access. And yes, I'm referring to the beta, but let's be honest, that was early access. And I thought maybe he was wanting something like Red Dead Online 6-month beta. But he was asked about this possibility by Ryan and had a different idea of how the game should have started.
Maybe you wish you'd launched that into Steam Early Access? Or Xbox Game Preview and,
or something like that. Or, okay, you're a Fallout 4 player. We're going to let you in the beta for free for this period of time.
Yeah.
Things like that I think would have made a world of difference in how the game hit on day one.
From what Todd Howard says, it sounds like Bethesda has changed their tune on forcing people to pre-order to get access to the quote-unquote beta. They no longer think it was the correct approach, and I agree. Although, I think it probably should have been an open beta and at least 2 months before launch, because that beta was, again, just really early access. The day one game was no different and didn't even feature a patch drastically changing or improving the game like some expected. Finally, though, we move to, I think, the biggest and most notable question asked in this interview.
Do you think 76 has had any lasting sort of damage to Bethesda's reputation or Fallout's reputation?
I'm sure it's had some. It would be naive to say it's had zero, right? If people come to the game now and see what's going on there, I think they'll be surprised. I'm really, really proud of what everybody's done in the game, and because I know where it's going, I think we're definitely long-term believers.
The problem for Bethesda moving forward is that people do not forget, and all the controversy that has emerged will haunt them moving forward. It also doesn't help when the Elder Scrolls Blades is a microtransaction mess, and the cosmetic-only promise with Fallout 76 was broken. Bethesda's reputation is damaged, and can only improve through actions. If they are listening to criticism, they should know that Starfield needs to not have the problems that plagued Fallout 76, and even games before then. Monetization is one of my big concerns with this whole ZeniMax company, and in the last year or two, we've seen all the Bethesda studios heading towards more games as a service, and it makes me wonder what the executives at ZeniMax are now doing, if they maybe are shifting to these experiences because they are more profitable. But yeah, Bethesda, with everything they do moving forward, they will face intense scrutiny because of Fallout 76 and all the controversy surrounding that game at launch. Even though it has improved, many will not forget how this ride began. Next, Todd would continue explaining one of the things that they wanted to learn with Fallout 76.
Which is, if you look at a Skyrim and Fallout 4, those things, the amount of people that play those games still is, I mean, you can look it up on this. It's staggering.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of people every month playing those games, and we have no touch point with them.
Right.
Right? It's just like, we ship the game, we do some mod stuff, but here you go.
I understand what Todd's trying to say about those games, but I'd argue Bethesda has engaged with them through DLC content, and of course the Creation Club. I'm not exactly sure those audience want those games to be treated as games as a service, but let's keep going because he ties this into Fallout 76, saying,
And so 76 was also, we need to learn how to be engaging and being able to update and see what players are doing and like be more engaged in that experience than 0.
What I don't necessarily understand is Bethesda has engaged with Skyrim and Fallout 4 players with DLC, and Fallout 76 is a multiplayer game that gets more regular updates that alter all sorts of aspects of the game, and I think that's what he's trying to hit on. But based on those comments, I am curious how Bethesda will treat Starfield. Will it be like traditional games or another live service experience, maybe less like Fallout 76 and more like Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Odyssey? But to the final remarks made by Todd Howard, IGN brings up other live service experiences like No Man's Sky and Sea of Thieves, which had rocky launches but now are doing a lot better. IGN says that it must be reassuring seeing how those other service games have made a comeback, and Todd replies with this.
But more than that, it's actually all of them. Right, yeah, I won't go through the list. But
Yeah.
You could take most popular online games and go back to day 0. They're going to go through their problems. And you're seeing that kind of across the industry.
Yeah.
That was the part we knew. I have to say, that's the part we knew going in. No matter what we do, we're going to have some problems, and we need to make sure we're ready to continue that momentum from before release, right through it.
To Bethesda's credit, they have been consistently improving Fallout 76 with all sorts of new content. At the very least, they are having much more success than BioWare's Anthem. But what Todd brings up is something that is the norm, but really just a problem. The fact of the matter is many publishers are fine with releasing unfinished broken games and fixing them maybe later. And I'm sure somebody in the comments will bring up examples of live services that didn't have many problems at launch. And I won't say didn't have any problems because really every game has some sort of issue, whether that be bugs and glitches or something else at launch, which is why I do think there is a difference between a game like Fallout 76 and Sea of Thieves, with one of them just really not having enough content at launch. But yes, this is an industry-wide issue, where live service games aren't ready day one and take months and sometimes years to get better. Again, if Bethesda had developed this game longer, I think it could have had a much smoother release, but consumers ended up doing what QA testers are supposed to do. Anyway, in conclusion, this is a much better response from Todd Howard about Fallout 76's struggles, and it will be interesting to see if they really listen to criticism and improve with future games, but right now, there's a lot of valid skepticism surrounding this game developer. But what do you make of Todd Howard's response, and what's your opinion on Fallout 76? Are you still playing or did you give up? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down the description below. I'm most active on Twitter giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.